Whether you're a new developer, a seasoned engineer, or just curious about AI pair programming, in this episode, we will get you up and running with GitHub Copilot, give you an overview of the different licenses available for you, and use GitHub Copilot for the very first time. I'm Kadesha, and I'm so excited that you're here with me today.
I would also like to fix my test, as I think the implementation changed and broken it, because then it should prompt the model to go and run the test. There we go. The model wants to run all tests in your workspace. We've got, 8 or so tests which are failing. Right, I see the tests are failing, likely because we modified a new game to include the secret mode, exactly. But the tests haven't been updated to match. And we can see it's added this new property to these tests here for wanting secret mode. All good. So then if we rerun the test, we still got some failure. And this is what's nice about agent mode, is it should detect that and go, yep, they're still failing. Yep, so play game needs to include the secret mode parameter. Some test blocks have logic errors. Good. Okay, I think that's all updated. Let's rerun the test again. Great. Test's passing.
Hey everyone, I am Kadesha and welcome to Open Source Friday, the show where we talk to maintainers about the apps that they are maintaining. I am so excited for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm here in cold Chicago, though it's not too cold today. The sun is coming out and there is hope yet. So where are you joining from? I see some from India, Mexico, others in the US. But today we have a really awesome show for you. So we'll be talking to, or I'll be chatting with Nicolas, who is the maintainer and author of Abracadabra, an automated refactoring tool for TypeScript and JavaScript. This is so interesting to me. So I'm super excited to chat with Nicolas. So let's bring him up on stage. Hi, Nicolas.
Hi, Kadesha. Hi, everyone.
Good. Thanks so much for coming onto the show. I am super excited to learn about Abracadabra. And oh yeah, I saw Andrea's in the chat and she says, Happy Pi Day, fellow nerds.
Indeed.
Yes, happy Pi Day. How many digits of pi can you memorize?
Oh, a few.
I know
not
someone who
some.
can. I know
How
someone who
many?
can do all of it. She can do the entire all of it from her brain, all of it. But let's get into Abracadabra, Nicolas. So tell us about yourself. Like, who is Nicolas? How long have you been around? And tell us kind of about the genesis of Abracadabra.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Nicolas Carlo. I am originally from France, and I moved to Montreal, Canada in 2018. That's going to be important, actually, about Abracadabra. I am a freelance web developer. I do full stack. I've worked a lot with startups, but I've also done consulting with large companies. I kind of specialize into legacy code bases, which I know is scary, but it's also related to Abracadabra and refactoring techniques, stuff like that. Also, I know Cassidy is probably in the chat, and I was a developer at Centered. She would probably know what it is.
Nice.
Yeah, it's. I'm also really into personal productivity, and here I organize the React and the software crafters meetups in Montreal, Canada.
That's amazing. If you're in Montreal, Canada, be sure to check out those meetups to get your hack and your nerd on with Nicolas. So one thing that's interesting to me that you say is you specialize in legacy code base. I have never heard anyone say that for as long as I've been around. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, it's funny because it's a big topic. Any successful company will have code that you need to deal with that you have not written. The developers are gone. It's more or less documented, more or less tested, and you have to change it. So I think every developer in their career, they will have to deal with legacy code. But it's not something we really talk about and we learn about, although there is a community. There are a few communities, but there is a large community, well, large. They call themselves menders. And if you're really into it, or if you're struggling with legacy code at work, you can check out for the Legacy Code Rocks podcast. There is a Slack channel also, and you will find me and other people who are searching for what we can do with that modernization, refactorings, how not to break things as you move fast, that kind of thing.
Nice. Very, very interesting. So tell us kind of about Abracadabra. And first of all, what a great name for a project that does automated refactoring, Abracadabra. So tell us about the genesis of Abracadabra. What problem were you trying to solve that kind of influenced your decision to start building this tool?
Yes, there are two big reasons why I started this extension. The first one is professional. When I was a consultant, I used and loved a lot the WebStorm and IntelliJ editors. There are even in like 7-10 years ago, they felt enterprisey compared to VS Code, which was like the new cool kid in the block. But still to this day, there are the editors with the most capabilities in terms of automated refactoring. So transforming the code for you fast and safe. However, I am mostly working on web development projects, so JavaScript, TypeScript a lot, and I moved to VS Code myself. And so I was lacking, the editor is great, but I was like, the only automated refactoring I had was rename with F2, and you should learn to use F2 for renaming stuff. But I don't know, like flipping conditionals, extracting variable, even stuff that I wanted all the time, had to do it manually, tediously, and it was slow. I was slow, and I was also sometimes doing mistakes because I'm doing that manually. So because of that friction, I was not doing them that much, but I needed them. It's like I wanted to speak, but I couldn't express myself with the editor. And so I was like,
Right.
VS Code, they have great marketplace of plugins. You can write that. It's in JavaScript or TypeScript. I know these languages. It's going to be, let me try write an extension. And that was me scratching my own itch and be like, okay, I'm going to bring something that does not really exist to the extension yet, extending the capabilities. And I've been maintaining that since. The second reason was more of a personal one, and that's where the name came from. I told you I moved to Canada in 2018, and my best friend, so from France, he moved to Germany. So Germany, Canada, it's very far, and I needed kind of an excuse to keep, talking and have something to do. So we actually started working on Abracadabra every week, pairing together just as an excuse. And we've done that for a couple of years. And Fabien, if you're here, thank you very much. But he participated in finding a fun name for the extension. He did the logo. The logo is amazing. He did it.
Okay, so let's jump right into the tool then, right? So I would love to see it. Sure, others would love to see it. So let's get into a demo.
Yes. All right. This, if you can see my screen, you can. So this is the source, the GitHub repository. This is the marketplace on VS Code. But I'm going to show you, first of all, how to use it, like what it does, because automated refactoring may be not something you're aware of. You may be aware of F2, I told you. So if you select a symbol on VS Code and you press F2, bam, you can rename it, and it will do for you the rename here and everywhere this code is referenced. So it's a way to rename things that is very fast. You press F2, you type your name, enter, and you're done.
Nice.
But there are more transformations we could make with code, things we could do all the time. For example, extracting a variable. So I know VS Code has improved extracting variables, but in short, look at this code. So this is the Gilded Rose coding kata. It's an exercise that you can practice to try things for refactoring like bad code. And one of the first thing you would do with this is you take this item's I, and this is referenced everywhere. So maybe first thing you want to do is to extract this in a variable. How do you do that? Well, many people, they will do something like that manually. Go here, do something like do all of that manually. With Abracadabra, I can. I don't even have to select it properly. I have a shortcut. Actually, let me show you, because otherwise you cannot see my keyboard. So I'm going to do something so you can see what I'm doing. All right. And it's not doing it. You should have seen my, never mind. You should have seen my shortcut, but there is a keyboard shortcut that you can use. Oh, I know why. Give me a sec.
Yeah.
Trying again. Live demo, of course. It's because I have two screens. Here it is. All right. I was like, where is my shortcut? Oh, on the other screen. All right. So I pressed this and it asked me, okay, do you want to extract this occurrence or all of them? Because it found that there are 34 occurrences. I say, yeah, all of them. I name it and I'm done. If I want to undo that, I also have a shortcut. I can inline and it's inline. So these are two.
I feel like that was so fast I missed it.
I'm gonna do it again, but that's the idea. Okay, 30 up. I'm gonna I want to inline stuff. Oops, something went wrong. Oh yeah, I messed up something. Let me do it again. Okay, inline. Yeah, it's fast. That's the idea. But
yeah.
I'm gonna show you slower moves so you can follow. So these were the ones that I bound to shortcuts because I use them all the time. Extract inline, extract inline. This is something I do all the time. But for example, see all of these conditions nested. To clean up that code, what we want to do is to actually have a top level switch on the name of the item. And then separate the logic because we have the HBRE update quality logic, we have this backstage passes logic, Sulfuras logic, etc. So we can spend the time doing it manually. I'm going to redo this refactoring. But with Abracadabra, you can do much more stuff. If you check out the light bulb here, you will see a bunch of refactorings. VS Code sometimes has ones because the TypeScript team has done a great job adding more and more capabilities. So these ones, for example, extracting to methods, stuff like that, they're from VS Code directly. You will have that natively. If you see a sparkle at the end, it is coming from the extension. And so you can see there are a bunch of things you can do. For example, we could convert this to a for each. And so we don't really need this anymore. But more importantly, we can do stuff that will take a while to do manually. So I can lift up conditionals. And this basically bubbled up this statement above. And you keep doing that. You can also flip. So I will do a lot of flip statement, bubbles statement. And you keep doing these transformations. I can merge also with the else if. So I can do this transformation and two things. First, they're going to be fast, actually fast. It's even harder when you're just a spectator because things are moving fast and you're not sure what happened. But when you're doing that, you know what you want to do and it's doing it for you. The second thing, it's going to be safer. Here, you see the green squares in my gutter. These are the tests running. I'm using an extension of that and a tool called wallaby.js. It's a tool I am paying a license for, and I'm not sponsored by them, but I love their tool because I have the test feedback right in my gutter. So if I introduce a mistake, for example, I will know right away. I don't need to have a terminal open and whatever. It's the moment it passes or fail, you see it. So I use that in this exercise so I can see that nothing breaks when I'm doing the transformation. And that's the goal. A refactoring is supposed to change the structure of the code without changing how it behaves. So all of these refactorings that the extension gives you allows you to transform the code faster without breaking it because it follows.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
That's
and it works so well. So I'm curious about how you built it, like the architecture behind it. How is it handling automated refactoring so seamlessly?
That's a great question. So I'm going to dive into the code of the extension. Is it? Yeah, it's big enough. Right?
Yeah.
It should be big enough. Okay, so how it works? Actually, I'm gonna draw things because I feel it's gonna be easier to explain. So what I have as an input, refactoring is really a function. It's a pure function that transforms an input into an output. So as an input, I have some code that is the string. So the VS Code is giving me the code of the file I'm in. I also have, because it's VS Code, I also have the selection. The selection, you can think about it as the cursor, where your cursor is, where is your position. And we will need that to know what you intend to do. So it's called the selection. You can actually have multiple selections, but take some code, take a position, like where you are on the code, and then you need to transform it to get some code in the output, like the transform code. I'm going to disable this. All right. So you want to do something like that, and to do that, I have something middle that is my refactoring. The refactoring function. So, for example, flip if else, right? It transforms this code into this code based on the position. How does it do that? Well, transforming a string into another string, many people will reach for regular expressions, right? That's what you learn. And you try to replace symbols, but it doesn't work very well. You won't go far. It won't scale because it cannot make the difference between a command, the syntax, the keywords, variables, stuff like that. It doesn't know the structure of the code. So you need to transform that code string into what we call an AST. So it's actually, it could just be a ST. It's a syntax tree. The abstract part doesn't really mean anything these days, at least not for that. Never mind. People call it abstract syntax tree, AST. The AST, it's just, it's a tree, like a data structure that is a tree. So you will have something like that with nodes, right, that are connected together, and it's directed. So you have a parent node, and then you have children. The top level will be the root of your program on your file, and then you will have a function, for example, a function body, and that function will have all the children's like arguments. It will also have a body, stuff like that. So you have that kind of structure where all the nodes are connected together, and that you parse your code string into that structure, and now you can manipulate it. So the Abracadabra extension, refactoring function, will do that, and then it will be visiting these nodes, stop on the nodes that are interesting. So for instance, I told you I have the selection. The nodes also will tell me where they start, where they end. So I can filter out the ones that I'm not within. And I will stop. For example, this is my if statement. I have my cursor inside. And then what I'm going to do is to transform it and replace it with another node. And the refactoring will replace this node with another one. And once I'm happy with the transformation, like, for example, flipping the if and the else, I'm going to take the else body, put it in the if, take the if, put it in the else, and invert the condition. And once I've done all of this, I take that AST and I print it. I convert it back to a code string. I send to the editor, and that's what you saw.
Amazing.
That's the core of it, the main thing you need to understand. And that's how a lot of toolings are doing this. Like the Prettier, for instance, it also takes your code, converts it into a structure, it can manipulate, reorganize. The tree may be different because they need different kind of informations about the style. And then finally, they print it back into code again.
Amazing. And thank you for the visual explainer too. That was really good.
I can dig into the code if you want.
Yeah, let's see. I would love to, we would love to see how it's working behind the scenes.
Yeah, I'm going to start with the interfaces. Actually, let me start with, because I'm currently working, you can see there is a refactoring deprecated and a refactoring type. That's because I'm transitioning from an architecture to another. It's ongoing. But the idea is that I take the VS Code editor and I do stuff with the old stuff. With the new one, it's more of a functional approach. I take a state and I return a command. I'm going to show you I was mentioning, no, actually I have an easy one. So in the source code, I have a refactorings folder and you will see all of them. So that's pretty explicit. To contribute, it's easy. You can see that as it's a plugin. You want to contribute to a new refactoring, it's going to be a new folder and it just plugs into it.
Nice.
Let's dive into this one. So add numeric separator. The idea is this value. I'm going to have, okay, if you have that value, how much is that? It is a bit hard to read. And it turns out in JavaScript, you can put underscore to separate the units. So this will be valid, but it's much easier to read. So, oops, no, that's not what I wanted. So this transformation is exactly what this refactoring is about. It adds the numeric separators in a given number.
Gotcha.
How it is implemented. So top level, it's a function, add numeric separator. It follows the refactoring interface. So in this case, it takes the VS Code editor and it will do things with it. I retrieve my code and my selection from the editor. So that's why I explained the schema before. Then I will parse the code to get an AST, and I will delegate the work to another function. And eventually, I will get a dated code that I write back to the editor, unless something went wrong and I could not execute that refactoring. In this case, I show an error. Okay, that's the top level. Then when you dig into how do you do the transformation? Okay, now I smaller problem. How do I transform that AST and with this selection? So I traverse it, and I have something called a visitor. So the visitor is we're going to visit all of that tree and stop on each of the nodes and only focus on the node that matters. If we have a match, then we will do this. So that will be the final transformation where we replace the node with the node that includes the separators. So the transform nodes, and you have the logic here that will do the, okay, I take that number and I will do a split and insert these underscore. Okay, how do I visit now? That's the last part. In this case, it's very easy. It's a simple one. So as you're navigating through the nodes, I want to stop on a node that has a specific name. It's called a numeric literal. That is the representation of a number as you saw before. So we do one check, like, am I inside this node? Like my current selection, is it inside? Otherwise, I'm not stopping here. And if I am here, then I will do the transformation I mentioned before. So all of the refactorings, the backbone of it is always the same. And then you may have some edge cases with, oh, I need to stop and ask the user, do you want to extract all of the occurrences or only one, stuff like that. But the core idea is the same. And yeah, everything is tested. So these are examples of tests to try different scenarios. So if I put my cursor here on this number, the output should, after the execution of the refactoring, should be this. And we tried with different examples. So when people come up with, people can contribute just by reporting errors. If you come up with a scenario where you wanted to transform your code and it broke that code or it could not do it, if you have the code you had before and where your cursor was, we can reproduce it here and fix it.
Amazing. This is so good. And I love how you can actually walk through everything step by step and tell us exactly what's going on. One question that's coming up multiple times in the chat is this only for JavaScript and TypeScript? Is there any plans to expand to other languages or even editors?
It is interesting question. So it is for both JavaScript and TypeScript. At this moment, I am using Babel to do the parsing, and it handles both JavaScript and TypeScript. I have a plan to use TypeScript soon, in particular, because they also are rewriting it. So I would unlock a lot of things by using TypeScript. There was a suggestion to build a TypeScript plugin instead. I don't want to do that because then I will be constrained with whatever TypeScript allow me to do, and I want to be in communication with the editor directly, because some of the user experience I want to nail. But using TypeScript, well, even today, I'm using Babel, so it handles JavaScript, TypeScript. It even handles the view extension, like the .vue files and Svelte files also. I'm not doing much here, but there are files where you have a mix of template, JavaScript code, and style. And it will actually scope the JavaScript to what's within the script tags, and you can also use the refactorings here.
Interesting.
As for other languages, so the constraint is this is specific to JavaScript and TypeScript for two reasons. You could have that, for example, for Python, and you may have another extension, but you will need something that understand Python code and parse it to the proper AST. Also, some of the refactoring sometimes are specific to a language. I do have some that are specific to TypeScript. So, for example, extract the generic type, or the extraction of the types. Like, let me do it here. I can do that on a type. That works because it understands TypeScript. In Python, it would not work. So you will need to redo it for another language. And in general, the communities, they do build their own. And finally, the question for other editors. So if you're using WebStorm or IntelliJ, you are already covered, actually. They have much more. But anything that is compatible, basically a fork of VS Code will be compatible. And yes, I have abstracted away the VS Code specific API, so it would be easy to actually plug a new, like if you want to use it with a different editor, I have an interface that you need to implement, and that will do the work. So it would not be hard to port it to other editors.
Cool. So outside of the refactorings that you have listed in the refactorings folder, is it able to do like others on its own? I guess not, right? Because the actual refactorings are being manually handled within the tool.
That's an interesting question you have. So this is more for, I want to modify the code. For example, I want to extract a variable, and this is giving me a shortcut to do it in the code, to express myself in the code. It is not for modernizing. For example, you want to move from a pattern A to a pattern B across your code base. This is not the tool you need. You're looking for a code mod. There are code mods out there. If you're doing JavaScript, they are in different languages, but let me go back here. What you should be looking for if you want to modernize stuff, so there are different. You may be familiar with code mods for a specific tool, but there is a platform for that. These are recipes that allow you to transform code at scale for you. So it is also refactoring, because it's not supposed to change the behavior of your code base. But the goal here is to implement recipes that will also manipulate the AST, but they will run through all of the files everywhere. Here in our case, we want to be specific. This is for, I have my cursor here on this thing, and I want to do something here for some reason. So this is where it's different.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know if there was a question already, but often I have the questions about AI. Could AI help with refactoring? I've played with that a lot. In short, the state of the art about AI and refactoring is that it can help. In particular, it helps with discovery. Like refactorings, you have a whole book from Martin Fuller about refactorings that is a catalog of, there are 60 plus different refactoring moves. They're really, it's like a recipe each time. It's like, okay, you want to do this. Here is how to do it step by step. But developers, they don't know most of the refactoring, this recipe by heart. Like, it takes time to learn all of them. So AI can help people discover what they can. Like, you can ask a question like, I want to simplify it, etc. And then the AI has that in context and can tell you this is what you can do, here are that. However, it cannot reliably transform the code for you yet. On playgrounds, on new code, stuff like that, it may, but 60% or maybe this is like 40% of the time it will trip. In particular, if you have like production-like code, it won't work. It will do a small mistake, and if you don't have tests and you're not super familiar with everything the code does, it's very easy to introduce a regression. So what you can do, what people are trying to do, I'm not yet working on that, but I know people are doing that. They use AI to propose refactorings, and then they use tools like that, like static tools that will perform the refactoring for you. And it's a combination of both, pretty much like giving tools to AI, to an agent, building an agent to do the transformation for you. So you have the generative capabilities of AI to suggest, but you have the deterministic transformation to make sure you don't break stuff.
I mean, I agree with that approach. I see like tools like GitHub Copilot, for example. It's really good at telling you what you can do to refactor your code, like a specific function. I like to go function by function and ask it, how can this be improved? Is there anything I can change? What refactoring suggestions do you have? And it does, give you that explicit list of what you can do to improve the code. But I do agree that it then takes an experienced eye to actually going and like implement the changes that it is suggesting, because sometimes it will give you not the most accurate information as it is right now with the models that we're using. But I think over time it will improve in that area for sure.
It will.
So tell us about some of the components of Abracadabra, right? What are the main components and what are their responsibilities?
Yes. So besides, you have this catalog of refactoring. So this is the core of it. Besides it, you have the entry point of the extension. This is an extension.ts file. It's where everything is bound together to be exposed to the editor. So you have a lot of declarations, configuration, and then we expose things. That's the entry. If you're looking for something, usually start from here and then you dig into this. You can see here I am in transition between an old pattern and a new one for my structure. That I expose the capabilities. So that's the first one. You have, it should be here, the action provider. Yeah, here. Okay, the action provider, that's an interesting one. So you see that light bulb here in VS Code. It already tells you the refactorings you can do. I have, I don't know, like 53 refactorings, I think. And it doesn't list me 53 refactorings, right? It's smart in the suggestions.
Right.
This is the action provider doing the job. The action provider, what it does is every time you move the cursor, you work. So VS Code will call the extension action provider and check like, okay, what could I show in that light bulb to the user that will be relevant? And so what it does is basically tries to identify based on, it does the same code, the visitor thing that we saw before. It's the same logic where we're using that. We're just not doing the transformation. But if there is a match, we're like, okay, this refactoring could be executed from here. So this is an important piece of the
very nice
work.
I was wondering how that was doing it. I thought, I was like, oh, is he using AI to do that? So it's nice to see that, no, I actually just created a function.
No, yeah, it is. Yeah, you wouldn't. Plus, AI will be too slow for that because it's happening. You know, it's happening it's very fast. It should be very fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the refactoring, you can use the palette if you type Abracadabra, and there you have all of the refactoring. You could trigger it from here, but in general, I never do that. I always use the light bulb. I even have the shortcut for the light bulb, Alt Enter, and I do have that because usually I just use the keyboard.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
that's it. There is one thing in Abracadabra that is not a refactoring. And I'm usually really strict into what gets into Abracadabra because I only want to bring refactorings, so code transformation that are not supposed to change the behavior. But there is one thing that I personally needed all the time. So if you're dealing with, well, let me go back to this. Yeah, you're dealing with that kind of code in real life. And something I frequently do when I have some code, this is not the case here, but imagine you have database calls, API calls in between. Usually is mixed within the logic. And you want to put that in their test. You, in general, want to separate the things you don't control from the pure logic. It's a recommendation, at least I have, but seeing them intertwine is a bit difficult. But with Abracadabra, you can do you can do that. So it's a persisting highlight, and you can do that to multiple things. There is only one here, but I should have another. Do I have another example? Okay, let me see on multiple variables. So I can be like, okay, where is this variable used? So this is the only exception I have. It's the highlight. So this is a different piece of code that is here. So I can highlight stuff and see, okay, these are intertwined, and I can extract them. So this is the only component you will see in the extension that is not a refactoring.
Yeah, that's good though, and I love that it's also different colors too. So you can easily see it.
You need, the main question is always like, can I read the code easily? And refactoring, why do we refactor? It's because I need to change the code, and I need to first, if I could make it easier for me to change the code, it would be nice. So that's why I refactor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Amazing. This is really good, Nicolas. And you're very good at explaining your code and walking through the work. So I really, really appreciate that. Another question I have for you is, are you using any external dependencies to build Abracadabra? I would love to see what the packet,
So I have a bunch of dev dependencies. I am mostly using Babel for parsing the code and reprinting the code. Recast is here to help Babel and remember the style, because otherwise it will reformat your code as you're refactoring, and I don't want that. And these are just helpers. So in terms of actual dependencies, not so much. In terms of developer dependencies, I do have a bunch of them for developers. Actually, if you want to contribute to Abracadabra, two things. I'm going to go on the website because it's going to be clear. First of all, you have a contributing documentation. I spent some time here because it's open source, so I wanted it to be clear for anyone to jump into it. And I had a bunch of contributors over time, so you can read that. I explain how to run the tests, how to also, you make a modification, you want to try it, you can do that. You can open a debug. It will open you a new VS Code window with the playground. Actually, let me do that. Where is it? Up. So it's going to bundle everything, and then you are not seeing that because it's on the window. But yeah, it opens the playground folder that is also in the repo, and whatever changes you made will be here. So you can try your thing. Okay, a bunch of things. So that's for contributing. Also, if you wonder, like you would like to contribute, but you don't know what to do, I have some good first issues flagged. So feel free to report issues, ping me, whatever. That works.
Nice.
And what else can I tell you?
I mean, you told us a lot. Yeah.
No, there is only one thing left I want to mention. I am using Dependabot to keep on in sync with the keep up to date with the dependencies. And in my experience using Dependabot, it works really well if you can trust your test suite. And I did a lot of work to have a lot of tests. And so whenever someone contributes, I know if they have broken something unexpectedly. So if you're curious about the tests, we haven't talked much about them, but well, I've showed you how they are. They're running here. Yeah, I'm running the tests. There are 1,254 tests running in 7
Wow.
seconds. So you can do changes and very quickly know if you have introduced a regression. So yeah, play around. And if you find anything, let me know.
Amazing. This was very good, Nicolas. The last question I have for you is, can you remind us of that testing tool you paid for in your editor? Someone had a question about it.
Yeah, two things I'm going to share. So I'm going to share a link. This one is what I'm using. It's called Wallaby.js. So they have licenses, but I think if you're doing open source, they have a free license for open source. So you can try
Nice.
that out, and it's really good, honestly. The second thing I haven't showed, it is documented, but it's called AST Explorer. So if you start, you want to do some refactorings, you can have a playground here where you can put some code, and this will be the AST. So the tree structure I was mentioning before, this is how you find that if you put a value here, okay, this is going to be the number of literals. I may need to use Babel instead. Actually, Babel parser is the one I use. Yeah, the numeric literal thing that you saw in the code before, it's coming from here. But it's also type safe, so you will have auto-completion, very handy. But this is handy when you want to do some tooling around JavaScript. AST Explorer, it's very good.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Nicolas, and showing us all about Abracadabra. It truly is magical, and I cannot wait for for myself to dig into it, and also for the community to dig into it and start contributing to it to make it even better. This is an amazing tool. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we wrap up here?
No, I will if you have contribution, we'll be happy. If you have questions also, I will be happy. You can do that on Abracadabra. You can also, I mentioned the Gassy code before, so I have a blog about that. If you're struggling, because this is refactoring, it's a part of working with Legacy code, I have a blog. It's called andersonlegacycode.com. Ton of articles, including working with AI. Let me find here. So if you want to dig into this, I would redirect you to the blog, and you probably will learn a few things. And this is a book I would recommend definitely to read if you want. I took some notes.
Nice. Reading is not out of style, folks. Make sure to check out that book on refactoring. And thank you so much again, Nicolas, for joining us. And thanks everyone for tuning in. And I will see you on the next one. Bye.
Thank you.